There is an old saying that trust takes years to build, seconds to break, and forever to repair. But what the saying does not explain is what happens inside the person who was betrayed. It does not explain the quiet confusion after the truth comes out, the strange numbness, the way the room can look exactly the same while your entire inner world feels rearranged. Being cheated on is often described as heartbreak, but heartbreak is only one part of it. Sometimes, the deeper wound is not that someone chose another person. It is that someone changed your reality without your permission. They let you live inside a story they knew was incomplete. They smiled while holding a secret. They answered ordinary questions with half-truths. They let you trust the floor beneath your feet while quietly removing the ground. And when the truth finally appears, it does not always arrive like a dramatic explosion. Sometimes it arrives through a message preview. A strange silence, a change in tone, a name that keeps appearing. A detail that does not fit. A gut feeling that has been knocking softly for months. Then suddenly, everything becomes evidence. The late replies, the emotional distance, the sudden defensiveness, the phone turned face down, the affection that started to feel rehearsed. The moments when you blamed yourself for noticing what was real. And this is where the psychology of being cheated on becomes so painful. Because betrayal does not only hurt the heart, it attacks memory. You begin to look backward with new eyes. The dinner that felt slightly cold. The night they said they were tired. The argument that seemed unnecessary. The compliment that sounded hollow. The reassurance that once calmed you, but now feels like a locked door. You may ask yourself, was any of it real? That question can become heavier than the betrayal itself. Because when someone cheats, they do not only step outside the relationship. They create two versions of life. One version where you were present, trusting, emotionally invested, and another version where something hidden was happening behind the curtain. The mind struggles to hold both. It wants one clean truth, one simple explanation, one sentence that makes everything stop spinning, but betrayal rarely gives that. Instead, it creates a maze, and inside that maze, many people begin blaming themselves. Not because they are weak, not because they secretly believe they deserved it, but because self-blame can feel less terrifying than helplessness. If it was your fault, then maybe the world still makes sense. Maybe there was a sign you missed. Maybe you were too distant, too needy, too trusting, too intense, too quiet, too available, too difficult to love. The mind searches for control, even if control comes through pain. This is one of the cruelest parts of being cheated on. The person who was hurt often becomes the person who investigates themselves. They ask what they lacked, what they should have seen, what they could have changed, why they were not enough. But cheating is not always a story about someone being not enough. Sometimes it is a story about someone else being unwilling to face emptiness honestly. Some people cheat because they crave validation. Some because they fear intimacy. Some because they cannot tolerate boredom, conflict, aging, responsibility, or emotional honesty. Some because secrecy gives them a temporary feeling of power. Some because they want the comfort of commitment and the thrill of escape at the same time. None of this removes the harm. It only reveals that betrayal is often more about the betrayer's unresolved inner world than the betrayed person's worth. Still, knowing that does not instantly soothe the wound. Because the body does not heal through logic alone. You can understand that it was not your fault and still feel replaceable. You can know you were lied to and still miss the person who lied. You can feel disgust, grief, longing, anger, and tenderness in the same hour. This emotional contradiction can make people feel ashamed. They wonder why they still care, why they still check their phone, why they still want an explanation, why a part of them wants comfort from the same person who caused the injury. But attachment does not disappear just because trust has been broken. The nervous system can remain bonded to someone long after the mind recognizes danger. Love creates pathways, routines, associations, 1,000 invisible threads. Their voice may still feel familiar. Their smell may still trigger safety. Their name may still pull something soft out of you, even when another part of you feels shattered. This does not mean the betrayal was small. It means the bond was real. And when a real bond is damaged, the mind can enter a kind of emotional withdrawal. You may miss what hurt you because what hurt you was also connected to what once soothed you. That is not foolish. That is human. Being cheated on can also create a deep injury to self-perception. Before the betrayal, you may have known yourself in a certain way, a loving person, a loyal person, someone chosen, someone safe inside a relationship, someone who believed certain things about the person beside them. Afterward, the mirror can feel distorted. You may see yourself through the betrayal, not as a whole person, but as someone who was deceived, someone who was not chosen fully, someone who was compared, replaced, hidden from, or made into an option without knowing. This is why cheating can produce shame, even when the shame does not belong to you. Shame whispers, "How did this happen to you? How did you not know? What does this say about you?" But betrayal happening to you does not make you small. It means someone placed you inside a situation where honesty was withheld. There is a difference between being blind and being lied to. Trust is not stupidity. Trust is what allows love to breathe. Without trust, every relationship becomes a courtroom. Every silence becomes evidence. Every phone notification becomes a threat. Every affectionate gesture must be cross-examined. No one can live gently that way for long. So when you trusted someone, it was not proof that you were naive. It was proof that you were willing to exist without armor. And when that trust was abused, the wound belongs to the person who abused it. Still, the aftermath can change how your body moves through the world. You may become more watchful, more sensitive to shifts in tone, more aware of patterns, more suspicious of kindness, more afraid of being too happy, because happiness once existed before the fall. This is where betrayal becomes more than a memory. It becomes a lens. A person who has been cheated on may begin reading danger into ordinary things. A delayed text, a changed password, a private conversation, a sudden smile at a screen, a new coworker's name. The body remembers what the mind wants to move past. It remembers the moment the truth came out. It remembers the drop in the stomach, the heat in the face, the shaking hands, the way sleep became difficult, the way food lost its taste, the way silence became loud. This is not overreacting. It is the nervous system trying to prevent another emotional ambush. Betrayal teaches the brain that safety can be fake. So afterward, the mind scans. It searches for cracks before the wall collapses again. And sometimes, this scanning continues even when no threat is present. Not because you want drama, not because you enjoy suspicion, but because part of you learned that peace can be interrupted without warning. Being cheated on can also create grief that society does not always understand. People may expect anger, They may expect a clean breakup. They may expect you to hate the person immediately. But grief after cheating is not simple. You are not only grieving what happened, you are grieving what you thought was happening. You are grieving the version of the relationship that existed in your heart, the future you pictured, the private jokes, the small rituals, the imagined birthdays, homes, trips, conversations, children, or quiet mornings that may never arrive in the same way. You are grieving a person who is still alive. And that kind of grief is confusing because there may be no funeral, no public ceremony, no clear permission to mourn. The person might still text, still apologize, still cry, still say they love you, still look like the same person. But something has died. A feeling of innocence, a sense of certainty, the ease of believing without checking, the softness of giving your whole heart without wondering who else is holding a piece of theirs. This is why betrayal can feel like emotional death without physical absence. Something ends even if the relationship continues. And if the relationship continues, another layer begins. The psychology of staying after cheating is often misunderstood. People outside the relationship may make it sound simple. Just leave. Have self-respect. Never forgive that. Once a cheater, always a cheater. But from the inside, it may not feel simple at all. There may be love, history, children, marriage, financial ties, faith, family pressure, fear, hope, confusion, 1,000 memories that do not disappear because one truth arrived. Staying does not always mean someone has no self-worth. Leaving does not always mean someone is healed. Both choices can come from pain. Both can come from strength. Both can come from fear. Both can take time to understand. The deeper question is not always, why did you stay? Or, why did you leave? Sometimes the deeper question is, what happened inside you after your reality broke? Because after betrayal, a person often enters a private negotiation between memory and evidence. The memory says, they loved you. The evidence says, they betrayed you. The apology says, it meant nothing. The wound says, it meant enough to destroy peace. The heart says, there were beautiful moments. The mind says, were those moments built beside lies? This inner conflict can feel like standing between two fires. One burns with longing, the other burns with truth, and there is no painless place to stand. Cheating also damages the meaning of intimacy. Before betrayal, closeness may have felt like warmth. Afterward, closeness may feel like exposure. To be close to someone is to give them access to tender places, your fears, your habits, your body, your hopes, your ordinary, unguarded self. When someone cheats, they may not only betray romantic exclusivity, they may betray the privilege of access. They saw your softness and still chose secrecy. That can make softness feel dangerous. So a person may become colder, not because they have no love left, but because love has become associated with risk. They may start holding back details, testing people, expecting disappointment, keeping one foot emotionally outside the door. This is not always bitterness. Sometimes it is protection dressed as distance. A heart that has been betrayed may not close because it wants to punish the world. It may close because it does not know how to stay open without bleeding. And yet, beneath the guardedness, there is often a quiet ache. Not only to be loved again, but to feel safe being loving again. That is one of the hidden losses of cheating. It can make a person miss their own innocence, the version of themselves who believed easily, who smiled at messages without suspicion. Who could enjoy affection without wondering what it was hiding? Who did not need to become a detective to feel calm? Sometimes the deepest grief is not losing the person. It is losing the version of yourself that existed before you knew they could do this. There is also a strange humiliation that can come with being cheated on. Even if no one else knows, part of you may feel exposed. If others do know, the pain can become public. You may wonder who knew before you did, who noticed, who pitied you, who whispered, who stayed silent. The betrayal may begin to feel like a room you entered late, where everyone had already heard the secret. This social layer can deepen the wound, because cheating can make someone feel not only unloved, but embarrassed, and embarrassment often keeps people silent. They may not tell friends. They may protect the betrayer's image. They may minimize the details. They may carry the pain privately because explaining it feels like reliving it. But silence does not mean the wound is small. Some of the deepest injuries are the ones people learn to speak around. They say, "Things have been hard." They say, "Something happened." They say, "Trust was broken." They say, "It is complicated." And underneath those small sentences is a whole storm, a volcano under snow. From the outside, everything may look quiet. Inside, there may be fire. The mind may replay conversations, search timelines, compare faces, imagine scenes, and ask questions that have no satisfying answer. Did they think about me? Did they feel guilty? Was it planned? Was I being laughed at? Was I loved at all? What did that person have? Why was honesty not enough? These questions are not only about facts, they are about meaning. The betrayed mind is trying to rebuild a world that was cracked. It gathers pieces, it studies them, it turns them over again and again. But some pieces never fit neatly, because betrayal contains an emotional irrationality. The person who cheated may give reasons, but reasons do not always heal the absurdity of being harmed by someone who once felt safe. This is why closure after cheating can be difficult. Even a full confession may not close the wound. Even an apology may not erase the images. Even accountability may not restore the original trust. Because the mind may understand the sequence of events, while the heart still cannot understand the permissions someone gave themselves to hurt you. Closure is not always a final conversation. Sometimes it is the slow acceptance that no explanation will be tender enough to undo what happened. That can be painful, but it can also be honest. There is another hidden psychological pattern in betrayal: comparison. After cheating, many people become haunted by the other person. Not always because the other person matters deeply, but because the mind turns them into a symbol of what you think you lacked. Their face may become a question. Their body may become a measuring stick. Their personality may become a threat. Their existence may become evidence used against your own reflection. But comparison after cheating is often a trap. Because the affair partner or the person involved is rarely being seen clearly. They are being seen through the smoke of injury. They become larger than life because the betrayal made them important. But importance is not the same as superiority. Someone can be chosen in secrecy and still not be better. Someone can be desired and still not be deeper. Someone can receive attention and still not replace your worth. Cheating often creates false hierarchies. It makes the betrayed person feel beneath someone else. But betrayal is not a beauty contest, a personality contest, or a measure of value. It is a breach of integrity. And integrity cannot be explained by comparison. Still, The wound may keep asking, why them? The deeper pain may be, why not protect me? Because when someone cheats, the injury is not only about desire going elsewhere, it is about protection disappearing. In a committed bond, a person expects their partner to guard the relationship from harm, to keep certain doors closed, to respect the private world being built together. Cheating says, for a period of time, that protection was absent, and that absence can feel like abandonment. Even if the betrayer physically stayed, emotionally they stepped outside the shared shelter and left you inside a house with no roof. This is why betrayal can awaken old wounds. If someone has been abandoned before, neglected before, lied to before, or made to feel replaceable before, cheating may not feel like one event. It may feel like every old wound returning with a new face. The past comes alive. Childhood fears, old insecurities, previous heartbreaks, memories of being overlooked, moments of not being chosen. Betrayal becomes river sediment stirred from the bottom. Things that seemed settled rise again. And this can make the reaction feel bigger than the event itself. But sometimes the reaction is not only to the present betrayal. It is to the way the betrayal echoed through every room where pain had once been stored. The heart does not always separate timelines. It feels patterns. A person may not only think, they cheated. They may feel, this always happens. I am never enough. People leave. Love is unsafe. Trust makes me vulnerable. Vulnerability gets punished. These beliefs can become chains, invisible, heavy, and hard to name. And yet, even here, the betrayed person is not broken. They are responding to injury. The mind is trying to protect meaning. The body is trying to protect safety. The heart is trying to understand loss. There is a quiet intelligence in pain, even when pain feels chaotic. Every tear may be part of the nervous system releasing what it could not process in the moment. Every question may be an attempt to restore order. Every wave of anger may be the part of the self that still knows it deserved honesty. Anger after betrayal is often misunderstood. It may look destructive, but sometimes it is the first sign that shame is leaving. At first, a betrayed person may collapse inward. They may blame themselves. They may beg for answers. They may feel small. Then anger rises, not always loud. Sometimes quiet, sometimes cold, sometimes like a line appearing inside the soul. Anger says, something sacred was mishandled. It says, this pain matters. It says, the truth should not have been hidden. It says, love should not require self-erasure. Anger is not the opposite of healing. Sometimes it is the fire that burns through self-blame. But beneath anger, there is usually grief, and beneath grief, there is often love. Not always love for the betrayer as they are now, but love for what was believed, what was hoped for, what was built inside the imagination. This is why healing from cheating is rarely a straight line. One day, you may feel strong. The next day, a song may undo you. 1 hour, you may feel clear. The next, you may wonder whether the relationship can still be saved. You may feel peace in the morning and rage at night. This does not mean healing is failing. It means the mind is digesting a complex emotional injury. Betrayal is not a single stone dropped into water. It is a stone dropped into a deep lake, sending ripples into memory, identity, attachment, trust, desire, and self-worth. Some ripples reach places no one else can see. The body remembers anniversaries. The mind remembers dates. The heart remembers tone. Even after time passes, certain details may reopen the wound. This is why people may say, It has been months. Why does it still hurt? But time alone does not heal what has not been emotionally integrated. A wound does not disappear because the calendar moved. A person can continue functioning, working, smiling, and speaking politely while carrying an empty well inside. The well may not be visible, but it is there. And sometimes healing begins not with answers, but with naming the depth of what happened, not reducing it to drama, not dismissing it as relationship trouble, not pretending it was only physical, not forcing quick forgiveness to make other people comfortable. Being cheated on can be a psychological rupture, a break in trust, a break in reality, a break in the story of who someone was to you. And because it is a rupture, the pain deserves space. Not endless punishment, not permanent suspicion, but space. Space to feel what was denied, space to grieve what was lost, space to stop turning the betrayal into proof that you were unworthy. Because the psychology of being cheated on often tricks people into believing they were not enough. But the truth is more complex. A person can be beautiful and still be betrayed. Deeply loving and still be betrayed. Patient, loyal, intelligent, affectionate, supportive, and still be betrayed. The existence of betrayal does not measure the value of the betrayed. It reveals the choices of the betrayer. This truth may sound simple, but it can take a long time for the heart to believe it. Because betrayal enters the body as rejection. And rejection can make even the strongest person feel like a child standing outside a locked door, wondering why love went somewhere else. But cheating is not proof that love is impossible. It is proof that trust needs honesty to survive. It is proof that secrecy can corrode intimacy like slow erosion against stone. At first, the relationship may still appear standing. But underneath, something is being worn away. And when the structure finally cracks, the betrayed person may be blamed for reacting to damage they did not create. They may be called insecure for asking questions, too emotional for crying, obsessive for needing details, dramatic for struggling to move on. But the reaction to betrayal is not the betrayal. The wound did not begin with the scream. It began with the secret. This distinction matters. Because many betrayed people carry guilt for the way pain changed them. They feel guilty for checking, questioning, doubting, withdrawing, or breaking down. Yet the nervous system does not perform elegance when it feels unsafe. It reaches for certainty wherever it can. Sometimes clumsily, sometimes desperately. Sometimes in ways that later feel unfamiliar. Pain can make a person behave unlike themselves, but that does not make them the villain of their own wound. There is a tender sadness in realizing that the person who was betrayed may end up apologizing for bleeding on the floor where someone else broke the glass. And still, beneath all of this, there is a quiet possibility. Not the loud kind, not the kind that says everything happens for a reason. Some things do not need to be romanticized. Betrayal can be senseless, cruel, disorienting, unfair. But even inside unfairness, something true can slowly return. A person may begin to see that their worth existed before the relationship and remains after the betrayal. Not all at once. Maybe first as a flicker. A small glow under ash. They may remember that loyalty was not weakness, that softness was not foolish, that trust was not stupidity, that loving deeply was not the mistake. The mistake belonged to the one who mishandled it. And maybe the heart does not become the same again. Maybe it becomes more aware, more careful, more honest about what safety requires. But different does not mean ruined. A cracked bowl can still hold light. A person who has been betrayed may carry scars, but scars are not evidence of ugliness. They are evidence that something tried to harm the skin, and the skin kept forming itself again. There may always be a before and after. Before you knew, after you knew. But the after does not have to be only pain. It can also become clarity, a clearer understanding of how fragile trust is, how sacred honesty is, how deeply the heart needs emotional safety, not just affection, how love without integrity becomes a beautiful room with no foundation. And perhaps, over time, the question changes. Not, why was I not enough? But, why did someone else's dishonesty make me forget my own value? That question does not erase the grief, but it turns the mirror back toward truth. Because being cheated on can make you feel like someone else wrote the ending to your story. But the betrayal is not the whole book. It is a chapter, a painful one, a chapter with smoke on the pages, a chapter that may take time to read without shaking. But not the whole book. There are still parts of you untouched by what they did. Your capacity to love, your ability to feel deeply, your longing for honesty, your quiet hope for something safe, your instinct that love should not require humiliation. Those parts may feel buried, but buried is not gone. Like seeds under winter soil, some parts of the self wait in darkness before they rise. So if you have been cheated on, and a part of you still feels confused, still feels angry, still feels embarrassed, still misses them, still questions yourself, still wonders why healing has not been neat or graceful, there is nothing wrong with that. A betrayal wound is not a small bruise on the surface of the heart. It reaches into trust, memory, identity, attachment, and the quiet places where self-worth is stored. The pain makes sense, the confusion makes sense, the slowness makes sense, and the fact that you were hurt does not mean you were weak. It means something tender in you was real, something trusting was real, something loving was real. And even if someone failed to honor that, it does not make those parts less valuable. It only means they were placed in hands that did not know how to hold them. The psychology of being cheated on is not only the psychology of betrayal. It is the psychology of trying to find yourself after someone else's secrecy made you feel lost. It is the mind searching for truth, the body searching for safety, the heart searching for a way to keep loving without abandoning itself. And maybe healing is not becoming untouched again. Maybe it is becoming honest about the wound without letting the wound become your name. If this reflection reached a quiet place in you, this channel is a safe space for the emotions people often hide. A gentle like or subscription helps this kind of honest, compassionate psychology reach someone else who may be silently carrying the same pain. And if no one has said it clearly enough yet, let it be said here. Being cheated on did not make you less worthy of love. It only revealed that love without honesty can wound deeply, and the part of you that still believes in loyalty, tenderness, and truth is not naive. It is still alive.